The shotgun cracked through the autumn air like a thunderclap from hell, splintering the silence of that Pennsylvania farmstead where secrets had festered for decades. John Harper's hand trembled as he clutched the old Remington, the barrel still warm against his palm. Staring down at the shattered pumpkin on the fence post, not a life taken, but a warning shot that echoed the fracture ripping through his soul. In that frozen instant, with his brother's eyes boring into him like accusations from the grave of their shared childhood, he knew the love he'd hidden for years had just detonated the only family he'd ever truly had. John had always been the quiet one, the shadow among the triplets born under a harvest moon in 1992. In the heart of Lancaster County's Amish-adjacent farmlands where the world moved slow and judgments cut deep. Michael, the eldest by mere minutes, was the golden boy captain of the high school football team, now a successful real estate broker with a handshake that sealed deals and a wife, Sarah, who baked apple pies that won county fairs. David, the wild card, had channeled his energy into the family auto shop, grease under his nails and a laugh that boomed like thunder. Married to Emily, the fiery schoolteacher who organized town fundraisers with the precision of a general. And John, he was the mechanic's right hand, the broker's silent advisor, the brother who fixed what broke without a word until the day he couldn't fix himself. It started innocently enough, or so John told himself in the rearview mirror of his battered Ford pickup, driving those winding back roads lined with cornstalk sentinels that whispered sins to the wind. He was 33 now, the age Christ had been crucified, though the Bible his mother quoted like gospel offered no solace for the fire burning in his chest. The family farm, inherited after their parents' car wreck 5 years back, was a sprawling relic of red barns and white clapboard, the kind of place where Sundays meant church and secrets meant shame. But lately, John's Sundays had been stolen glances across the pews at Alex Rivera, the new hire at the local library, a transplant from Philly with olive skin, curly black hair that fell just so, and eyes like polished obsidian that saw right through the facade John had built brick by painful brick. Alex was 28, a queer artist who'd fled the city's relentless pace for the quiet of small-town life. Or so he'd confide later over stolen coffees at the diner's back booth. He shelved books on everything from queer theory to quantum physics, his fingers lingering on spines with a grace that made John's throat tighten. Their first real conversation happened on a rainy Tuesday in October, when John ducked into the library to escape a downpour, pretending to browse the automotive repair manuals while his eyes betrayed him, tracing the line of Alex's neck as he reached for a high shelf. "Need help finding something that's not under the hood?" Alex had asked, his voice a low rumble laced with mischief. And just like that, the dam cracked. By the time the leaves turned blood red, they were meeting in secret picnics by the Susquehanna River where Alex sketched John's profile against the current, his pencil strokes capturing the vulnerability John hid from the world. "You're like a storm trapped in a bottle," Alex murmured one evening, his hand brushing John's knuckles under the picnic blanket, sending sparks that lit up the darkening sky. John pulled away at first, heart hammering with the terror of what it meant to family barbecues where Michael's jokes about real men landed like punches, David's ribbing about settling down with a nice girl from church. But Alex was patient, a lighthouse in the fog, sharing stories of his own coming out in a family that had disowned him at 17, only to circle back years later with apologies too late to mend the scars. The romance bloomed fierce and fragile, like wild roses choking the fence lines. They'd drive to hidden clearings in the state forest, where Alex would play guitar under star-pricked skies, his voice weaving ballads of lost loves and found selves that made John weep silent tears. One night, as fireflies danced like errant prayers, Alex leaned in, his lips soft and insistent against John's, tasting of black coffee and courage. It was John's first kiss, stolen at 33, and it unraveled him, waves of guilt crashing against euphoria. The press of Alex's body, a revelation that both healed and hollowed him out. "I love you," Alex whispered into the crook of John's neck. And John, voice breaking like thunder in drought, replied, "God help me. I love you too." But love in Lancaster was a fragile thing. Gossamer threads stretched taut over an abyss. Whispers started smell, a neighbor spotting John's truck parked too long outside Alex's rented cottage on Elm Street. The librarian's knowing smile when John returned overdue books with excuses that rang hollow. Michael noticed first, his brow furrowing over Thanksgiving turkey as John dodged questions about dating. "You're not getting weird on us, are you, Johnny?" he'd asked, half joking, half probing, while Sarah shot him a warning glance, her empathy a quiet force in the storm. David laughed it off, clapping John on the back hard enough to bruise. But Emily's eyes lingered, sharp as she was, piecing together the puzzle John prayed would stay unsolved. Winter clamped down like a vice, snow blanketing the fields in deceptive purity, mirroring the lies John told himself each dawn. He and Alex grew bolder in their secrecy, midnight drives to Harrisburg for drag shows where queens in glittering gowns reminded John of the armor he'd never worn. Hands intertwined under theater seats as laughter bubbled up like forbidden champagne. Alex talked of futures, a life in the city, art galleries showcasing his portraits of queer icons. John perhaps training as a restorer for antique cars, free from the farm's gravitational pull. "We could build something real," Alex said, tracing patterns on John's palm during a motel rendezvous, the room smelling of cheap pine cleaner and possibility. John wanted to believe it, ached for it. But the triplets' bond was a chain, forged in the womb and tempered by loss, their parents gone too soon, leaving the three of them to stitch the family fabric alone. The unraveling began on New Year's Eve, under a sky exploding with fireworks that mocked the powder keg in the Harper barn. The annual triplet tradition, brothers only. Whiskey by the fire pit, toasting to another year survived. Michael arrived first, arms loaded with craft bourbon and stories of a big sale closing in the spring. David followed, tools clinking in his truck bed from a late repair job, his laugh echoing off the silos. John was last, guilt gnawing like frostbite, fresh from a furtive goodbye kiss with Alex at the edge of town. They settled into Adirondack chairs, flames leaping high, the air thick with cigar smoke and unspoken phrase. It was Michael who ignited the fuse, his voice slurring just enough to loosen the tongue. "Heard something today, boys, about our Johnny here and that fancy pants librarian. Folks saying he's, you know, batting for the other team." The words hung like icicles, sharp and cold. David snorted, but his eyes darted to John, waiting. John felt the world tilt, the whiskey burning a path to his gut. "What if I am?" He shot back, the hook of truth lodging deep, his voice steady despite the quake inside. The silence stretched, broken only by the crackle of embers. Michael's face darkened, The golden boy's mask slipping to reveal the fear beneath fear of the town's judgment, of losing the farm's respect, of the family name tarnished like a rusted fender. Jesus. John. We're Harpers. We don't. We can't. David stood, pacing, his wild energy turning feral. This some phase. That guy's poisoning you, turning you into something you're not. The accusations flew like fist betrayal. Weakness. The end of everything they'd built. John rose, chest heaving, the love for Alex a shield and a sword. It's not a phase. It's me. And if you can't handle that, then maybe this family's the one that's broken. The fight spilled into the snow, shouts echoing across the frozen fields. Brothers who'd shared every milestone, now strangers in the night. Michael grabbed John's collar, pleading through rage. Think of Mom and Dad. Think of us. David punched a fence post. Splintering would like their vows. John broke free, tears freezing on his cheeks, driving off into the dark with the echo of slammed doors and shattered trust. He ended up at Alex's door, collapsing into arms that held him through the sobs, the confession pouring out like venom drawn from a wound. They're gone, John whispered, and Alex, ever the anchor, replied, no, love. You're just beginning. Spring thawed the ground, but not the rift. The farm became a battlefield of cold shoulders and barbed silences. Sarah reached out first, slipping a note under John's trailer door. We need to talk. For all our sakes. Her handwriting neat as her lesson plans. They met at the diner, away from prying eyes. Her face pale but resolute. Michael scared. John. Not of you, but of what this means for the boys, for the legacy. She spoke of their sons, little Ethan and Noah, asking innocent questions about Uncle John that now carried weight. John nodded, throat tight, sharing fragments of his truth, the loneliness of hiding, the joy Alex brought like sunlight after storm. Sarah listened, tears welling, and by coffee's end, she hugged him fierce. I'll fight for you. For all of us. Emily was tougher, her educator's mind dissecting the mess with surgical precision. She cornered David at the shop one afternoon, tools clattering as he dodged her gaze. This isn't about the town or God or whatever excuse you're hiding behind. It's about love. David. Real love. He railed at first, invoking scripture and tradition. But Emily's quiet fire wore him down, forcing him to confront the hypocrisy, his own wild youth. The girls he'd loved and lost before her. John's your blood, she said, hand on his grease-streaked cheek. Don't let fear make you the monster. Michael held out longest, the weight of expectation crushing him. He threw himself into work, listings blurring as resentment festered. But the farm demanded unity. Calving season brought twins to the Holsteins, a miracle that softened even his edges. One dawn, as John bottle-fed the newborns in the dim barn light, Michael appeared, shadows under his eyes like bruises. I don't get it, he admitted, voice raw. How can you choose him over us? John set down the bottle, meeting his brother's gaze. It's not a choice, Mike. It's who I am. And I never chose to hide it from you. They talked then, halting at first, then flooding Michael confessing his own doubts about fatherhood. The pressure of being the strong one. By sunrise, arms clasped in tentative truce. But the scar tissue remained, tender and untested. Alex watched it all from the sidelines, his artist's eye capturing the turmoil in sketches John found tucked in his glove box, brothers fractured like cracked porcelain, yet edges hinting at mending. Their love deepened in the interim, a bastion against the siege-lazy Sundays in Alex's cottage, painting each other's bodies with whispers and watercolors. Dreams spoken aloud of a cabin by the river, far from judgment's reach. But the idol shattered on Memorial Day, the town's annual picnic a powder keg primed. The Harpers arrived en masse, tables groaning under potato salad and ribs, laughter a thin veneer over the undercurrent. It was little Ethan who unwittingly lit the match, tugging John's sleeve with wide-eyed wonder. "Uncle John, is Mr. Alex your boyfriend? Like Daddy and Mommy?" The park fell silent, forks hovering, eyes swiveling like spotlights. Michael's face drained of color. David's jaw clenched white-knuckled. John froze, Alex's hand finding his under the tablecloth, a lifeline in the storm. "Yeah, buddy," John said, voice steady as the earth beneath him. "He is." Chaos erupted not with fists, but words sharper than shrapnel. Michael bolted, Sarah trailing with apologies scattering like confetti. David hurled accusations, Emily pulling him back as neighbors murmured. The town's conservative core closing ranks. Alex stood tall, chin lifted. But John saw the flicker of old wounds in his eyes, the dissonance ghost rising. They fled to the truck, hearts pounding. The picnic's joy curdled to ash. That night, the brothers converged on the farm, wives in tow, a war council under the kitchen's harsh fluorescence. Accusations flew. Michael's, "How could you humiliate us?" Clashing with David's, "This ends the family." John, flanked by Alex's quiet solidarity, laid bare his soul, the years of silence, the terror of rejection, the love that had saved him from drowning in denial. Sarah and Emily mediated, voices bridges over chasms, pleading for grace. "We're not the 1950s," Sarah said. "Love isn't a threat. Hate is." Hours bled into dawn, tears and tempers ebbing to exhaustion. David broke first, admitting his own buried doubts about masculinity's rigid code. Michael followed, voice cracking as he recalled their father's unspoken prejudices, vowing not to repeat them. Hugs came halting, bodies stiff with new boundaries, but real promises to try, to learn, to love despite the fractures. Yet the story didn't end in tidy bows. The town whispered. Clients drifted from Michael's agency. David's shop saw fewer faces. John and Alex moved to a small apartment in nearby Lancaster. The farm visits tentative, laced with awkwardness. But growth sprouted in the cracks. Michael attended a PFLAG meeting. David hung a rainbow sticker on his toolbox. Sarah and Emily hosted game nights where Alex's laughter filled the voids. A year later, under that same harvest moon, the triplets gathered again, not in division, but tentative reunion. John, hand in Alex's, watched his brothers with their wives. The family reknit, not unbroken, but beautifully scarred. "We broke," John said, raising a glass. "But we didn't shatter." in the love that had dared to bloom. They found not just survival, but a deeper humanity, one that embraced the whole, shadows and all. The summer heat clung to the Harper farm like a second skin, the air thick with the hum of cicadas and the scent of sun-baked earth. But inside John's trailer, the atmosphere was electric with a different kind of storm. It was June, Pride Month in name only for Lancaster, where rainbows were for gardens, not hearts. And John Harper paced the worn linoleum, phone pressed to his ear, Alex's voice a soothing current against the tide of his anxiety. "Breathe, mi amor," Alex said from Philly, where he'd gone for an art supply run that stretched into a weekend escape from small-town scrutiny. "The barbecue's just family. They'll see how happy you are." John wanted to believe it, but doubt gnawed like termites in the beams. The annual Harper Summer Cookout was sacred, Michael manning the grill with his trademark precision, David challenging everyone to horseshoe tosses that ended in beer-soaked hilarity, Sarah and Emily weaving through with trays of deviled eggs and coleslaw, their laughter a melody over the sizzle. Last year's Memorial Day debacle still lingered, a bruise on the family's collective hide, but they'd patched it with calls and cards, tentative steps toward normalcy. Inviting Alex was the leap, the test of whether love could bridge the gulf. He arrived at dusk, the sun dipping low like a blood orange behind the silos, casting the farm in amber glow. Alex stepped from his beat-up Subaru, canvas bag slung over shoulder, wearing a simple white tee that hugged his lithe frame and jeans faded to perfection, his smile a beacon that made John's knees weak. They embraced on the porch, John's hands lingering on Alex's waist, inhaling the faint citrus of his cologne mixed with road dust. "Ready?" Alex murmured, lips brushing John's temple. John nodded, steeling himself as the screen door banged open. Michael was first, apron smeared with sauce, his broad shoulders tense under the porch light. "Alex," he said, extending a hand that gripped firmer than necessary, eyes flicking to John for cues. "Glad you could make it." Sarah swooped in next, her auburn waves tied back, pulling Alex into a hug that smelled of vanilla and welcome. "We've heard so much. Come, help with the salad." John's hopeless at chopping. Emily followed, her blonde bob swinging as she sized Alex up with appraising eyes, then grinned. "David's already 3 beers in. Fair warning." David lumbered over last, wiping hands on his jeans, his grin wolfish but genuine. "The artist. Huh. Bet you could fix up that old mural on the barn. Been peeling since '98. The evening unfolded in fits and starts, laughter bubbling up around the picnic table laden with ribs and corn. But undercurrents swirled. Alex charmed with stories of his Philly gallery days, sketches he'd done of the city's hidden queer haunts, his hands animated, drawing invisible lines in the air. Michael leaned in, intrigued despite himself, asking about techniques while Sarah nodded encouragement. David ribbed him good-naturedly, "So you draw pretty boys for a living." No wonder Johnny's hooked, earning a swat from Emily and a blush from John that Alex quelled with a knee nudge under the table. As stars pricked the velvet sky, the group migrated to the fire pit, marshmallows toasting to golden, stories flowing freer with the wine Sarah poured. Alex shared a vulnerable piece then, voice soft over the crackle, his coming out at 16, the slam of his father's door. The years of couch surfing before art school scholarships pulled him through. Family's not blood, he said, eyes on John. It's the ones who stay. The words landed heavy. Michael's jaw tightening as he poked the fire. Memories of their own losses surfacing, the parents' wreck on icy Route 30. The triplets clinging to each other in the hospital waiting room. John felt the shift, the air thickening, and seized it. Alex stayed when I was scared to even admit it to myself. He reached for Alex's hand, lacing fingers openly. The gesture a quiet thunder. David cleared his throat, staring into the flames. Takes guts. Man. More than I had at your age. Michael met John's gaze across the pit, shadows playing on his face. We're trying. Johnny. It's a lot. Sarah squeezed his arm. Emily nodded. And in that circle of firelight, something mended, a thread rewoven. Fragile, but holding. But Lancaster's winds carried more than pollen. They bore gossip like pollen on the breeze. By mid-July, the whispers reached fever pitch, the librarian and the mechanic. Spotted at the river's edge. Hands too close for friends. Church ladies clucked over coffee. Old clients canceled appointments with Michael, murmuring about family values. David found spray paint on his shop door one dawn, sinner, the red letters dripping like blood. He didn't tell John at first, scrubbing it away before the sun rose. But the rage simmered, spilling out in a late-night call. They're coming for us because of you, he growled, voice thick with bourbon. John, cradling the phone in Alex's kitchen, felt the old guilt coil. No. David. They're coming for change. The crisis peaked at the county fair. August's riot of lights and livestock, where the Harpers had a booth for the farm's jams and quilts, a tradition since their grandmother's day. John manned the stall with Alex, jars gleaming under strings of bulbs, while Michael hawked pies nearby. David wrangling the kids on the Ferris wheel with Emily and Sarah. It started subtle, sidelong glances. A mother's hand yanking her child away. Whispers behind fans. Then Reverend Hargrove approached, Bible in hand, his face a mask of pious concern. John Harper, I've prayed for your soul. This entanglement with that man, it's an abomination. Repent before you drag your brothers down. Alex stiffened beside him, but John stepped forward, voice low and steel-edged. Reverend, my soul's at peace for the first time. If that's abomination, then sign me up. The crowd murmured, phones emerging like vultures. But Michael appeared then, clapping a hand on the Reverend's shoulder with broker's charm. Evening. Sir. Try Sarah's strawberry rhubarbist in the county. He steered the man away, but the damage rippled. Flashbulbs popping as locals captured the standoff. Back at the farm that night, the family convened in the living room, air heavy with unspoken fury. David paced, fists clenched. This is bullshit. John. The shop's tanking, lost 3 regulars today. Michael slumped in his armchair, tie loosened. And my listings? Crickets. They're boycotting us because of this. Sarah and Emily flanked their husbands, eyes pleading. But John stood firm, Alex at his side like a sentinel. Then fight it, John said, voice cracking with passion. Not Mayus. We're Harpers. We don't bend to bullies. The words ignited a spark. David stopped pacing, rubbing his neck. Damn right. Michael exhaled, long and slow. What if we go public? On our terms. The idea bloomed, a family statement. Posted on the farm's Facebook page. Michael's real estate savvy turning it viral. The Harpers stand for love all kinds. Blood. Chosen. Queer. Join us or step aside. Photos followed, triplets arm in arm with wives and Alex. Smiles defiant under the red barn. The backlash roared hate mail. Slashed tires, but so did support. Neighbors dropping off pies with notes of solidarity. A Philly queer center offering resources. Even Reverend Hargrove's quiet visit. Mumbling about evolving scripture. Through it, John and Alex's bond fortified. Their nights a haven of tangled sheets and tender vows. Planning a future etched in permanencia commitment ceremony by the river. Rings forged from scrap metal David welded himself. Fall brought harvest. And with it, healing's harvest. The triplets worked side by side in the fields. Combines humming like heartbeats synced anew. Conversations turning deep, Michael's fears of failing his sons. David's regrets over lost youth. John's gratitude for the love that forced the reckoning. Wives wove the tapestry tighter. Sarah organizing a town ally workshop. Emily tutoring Alex's art students with inclusive flair. As leaves turned, John proposed under the harvest moon. Knee and dew-kissed grass. Alex's yes a symphony in the night. The family gathered for the ceremony simple. Sacred vows exchanged with the Susquehanna murmuring witness. Brothers toasting with tears in their eyes. To love that breaks and builds. Michael said. And in that circle, the Harpers emerged whole. A testament to resilience's quiet power. Winter's grip loosened grudgingly that year. But in the Harper household, warmth bloomed defiant against the chill. It was February. Valentine's shadows long. When John and Alex returned from their honeymoon whirlwind week in New Orleans, where jazz wailed through the streets like liberated souls and beignet dusted sugar over sins. John's ring, a simple band etched with interlocking gears, caught the light as he unloaded the truck. Alex humming beside him. Curls windswept from the drive. The farm looked the same, barns sentinel still under frost-rimed roofs, but everything had shifted. The air humming with possibilities, electric hum. Michael greeted them at the gate, shovel in hand from snow clearing. His smile genuine if tentative. Brought back any of that Cajun spice Sarah's been craving. Inside, the kitchen overflowed, Emily basting a roast. David sneaking tastes. Little Ethan and Noah underfoot with crayon drawings of Uncle Alex's wedding, stick figures and top hats by a river of blue squiggles. Sarah enveloped them in hugs. Her eyes misty. You too glow, she whispered to John. And he believed her. The weight of acceptance lifting like fog burned off by dawn. But reconciliation's path was no straight country lane. It wound with pitfalls. Town tensions simmered, the fair's fallout had split loyalties. Some families crossing streets to avoid the Harpers. Others quietly stocking up on farm goods as subtle solidarity. David's shop rebounded slowest. The sinner graffiti a scar that drew countertags of hearts from anonymous allies. One evening, as John helped well defender, David broached the unbroached. Remember Dad's old saying, Harpers fix what breaks. Guess we had some fixing to do ourselves. John nodded. Arc light flickering blue on their faces. Love's the best tool for it. Alex integrated like roots seeking soil. His presence a catalyst. He taught the boys to sketch, turning the barn into a makeshift studio where Noah's wild lines captured Uncle John's truck with uncanny flair. Michael, ever the strategist, looped Alex into business talks ideas for farm-to-table events with queer artists, turning the property into a haven. Could put us on the map. Michael mused over coffee. And for the first time, John saw his brother not as adversary, but ally in reinvention. Yet shadows lingered, personal as frost on window panes. John woke some nights, heart racing from dreams of rejection's echo. Alex's arms his anchor pulling him back. We're building something unbreakable, Alex would murmur, fingers tracing the ring's grooves. Their lovemaking a reaffirmation slow, fervent, bodies mapping forgiveness's terrain. Alex confided his own ghosts too, the father's silence after disownment, the mother's letters arriving too late, laced with regret. You gave me a family, he told John one dawn. Snow falling soft outside. Not replacement expansion. Spring unfurled green and insistent. Calving season a frenzy of new life that mirrored the family's rebirth. Twin heifers arrived under John's watch. Their bleats a chorus of beginnings. And he called Alex from the barn. Voice thick. Come see. It's like Houston expected. But perfect. The wives organized a Pride on the Farm event. Small scale, rainbow flags fluttering from the silo. Local bands playing folk anthems. Food trucks serving fusion fare. Turnout surprised neighbors mingling with out-of-towners. Conversations sparking like fireflies. Reverend Hargrove even showed. Sans Bible. Offering a handshake and Godspeed that tasted of olive branch. The triplets marked their birthday that May. 34 now. With a ritual renewed, bonfire by the river. No wives or partners. Just brothers reclaiming roots. Whiskey passed hand to hand. Stories looped back to boyhood mischief the treehouse forts. Stolen first kisses with farm girls, and for John. Unspoken crushes on the quarterback. Laughter came easier. Tears freer. I thought I'd lost you, Michael admitted. Firelight gilding his face. David clapped shoulders. Nah. We're welded now. Stronger seams. John raised his glass. To the love that broke us open. Summer swelled with projects, Alex's mural on the barn. Vivid strokes of intertwined figures brothers. Lovers. Families drawing tourists and tales. The shop thrived on custom queer-friendly wraps. Michael's agency listed inclusive estates. But climax brewed in August. A storm front rolling in unannounced, an anonymous letter to the local paper. Outing details with venomous spin, Harper triplets corrupted by deviant influence. Circulation spiked. Phones rang off hooks. The farm a media magnet. The family hunkered. But John rallied them to the porch. Rain lashing like judgment. We don't hide. We own it. With Emily's drafting and Sarah's polish. They pinned a response raw. Human, tales of loss and love. The triplets' unbreakable bond. Alex's place in it. Published front page. It went viral. Shares flooding from coasts. Interviews requested. A podcast invite from a queer icon. Backlash paled against the wave. Donations for a farm scholarship for LGBTQ youth. City couples booking stays. Fall's harvest reaped abundance. The air crisp with cider and change. John and Alex planted a garden rows of tomatoes and zinnias, symbols of nurture and beauty amid thorns. Holidays healed further, Thanksgiving with toasts to growth. Christmas with a tree strung in rainbow lights. Gifts wrapped in forgiveness. As winter whispered in, the Harpers stood fuller. The love story that broke them, forging a legacy of open hearts. John, watching Alex laugh with his brothers by the fire, knew, and shattering, they'd found eternity's glue. The new year dawned crisp and unyielding, snow dusting the Harper fields like powdered sugar on forgotten dough. But inside the farmhouse, resolutions simmered with the coffee pots percolate. It was January 2027. The triplets, 34 and change. Their lives a tapestry rewoven with threads of silver and strain. John woke to Alex's breath warm on his neck. The cottage they shared just off the farm, a nest of exposed brick and canvases. Morning light slanting through windows fogged from night's passions. "Happy anniversary," Alex murmured, nuzzling closer. His body a map John knew by heart curves and angles that spoke of home. 34 days since their ceremony. But the milestone felt seismic. A marker against the chaos that had birthed it. John traced Alex's jaw, marveling at the man who'd cracked his world open. "To many more," he replied, sealing it with a kiss that deepened. Hands wandering until duty called calf feedings and shop opens. Alex lingered in bed, sketching the rumpled sheets. His art a chronicler of their quiet revolutions. The farm pulsed with purpose that winter. Michael's agency boomed with eco-tourists seeking authentic stays. The inclusive angle a draw post-viral op-ed. He and Sarah navigated parenting's tempest. Ethan's questions about why Uncle John has two daddies with Uncle Alex, answered with books and hugs. David expanded the shop, adding electric vehicle bays. Emily's influence pushing sustainability. "Got a future-proof," he'd grunt. But his eyes softened when Alex dropped by with sketches for custom wraps, vintage cars, and pride parades. Tensions, though ebbed, weren't erased. A church deacon pulled Michael aside one Sunday. Voice oily. "Heard you're pandering to that lifestyle. Careful. Sun God's watching." Michael stiffened. But later, over lunch with John, he vented without venom. Told him God's got bigger fish. Felt good. John clapped his shoulder. Brotherhood's ease returning like old boots fitting true. Alex's exhibit in Philly that March was the family's first collective outing, nerves jangling as they piled into the van. Kids chattering. Wives packing snacks like generals provisioning troops. The gallery buzzed. Walls alive with Alex's portraits, John's contemplative gaze. The triplets in fractured unity. Sarah and Emily as fierce guardians. Opening night. Critics praised the raw humanity. Buyers snapped pieces. But the real magic was Michael's toast at the afterparty. "To Alex for painting us whole." Tears pricked. Hugs lingered. The city lights a counterpoint to Lancaster's stars. Spring brought bloom and bruise. Noah, David's youngest, came home from school tear-streaked, taunted for his gay uncles. David roared to the principal. Emily drafting a diversity policy that rippled district-wide. John and Alex volunteered. Story hours at the library, now safe spaces. Alex reading tales of two-mom families with theatrical flair. The incident bonded them tighter. David's gruff, "Thanks for stepping up," over beers a bomb. Summer's heat wave tested resolves. But the farm's pride event swelled tents for workshops. A drag queen story time drawing families. Food laced with Alex's herbal twists. Rain threatened, but cleared for the main, a panel with the Harpers. Voices weaving pain to power. Love broke us, John said, Alex's hand in his. But it glued us back stronger. Applause thundered. Connection sparked a young man approaching John post-talk. Whispering, "You gave me courage." Fall harvest intertwined with wedding anniversaries. Michael and Sarah's 10th marked with a vow renewal by the river. John and Alex officiating. Words echoing their own. David's surprise proposal redo for Emily fireworks over the fields had the triplets scheming like kids. Gratitude swelled. The land yielding bounty as hearts did. Winter closed the circle. A triplet retreat to the cabin, upstate whiskey and woods. No tech. Just truths. They spoke of fathers unspoken, the Harper patriarch's rigid love. Alex's absent one. Vowing cycles broken. We're the dads we needed, Michael said. And in that firelit pact, legacy sealed. By spring's return, the Harpers weren't just surviving, they thrived. A beacon in Lancaster's heartland. John's love, once a fracture, now the family's firmament. Proving, in breaking forever, they'd built eternal.